Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! And Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So today, I want to take a quick look into the future, and I do not mean the near future coming out in the next couple of weeks, the Lord of Tachyon Galaxy future. I'm talking about the distant future, after Konami rains its banhammer of destruction down upon the asses of Prophecy, Mermail, and the deck that's getting more name changes than a 60s band that's losing members. Also known as, I believe, Dragon Lords now. I don't know, Dragosack. Anyway, the reason why I want to talk about the distant future now, as opposed to the near future, which I think is more on people's minds, is, well, there are a couple of reasons. The first is that I think that people are getting kind of tired of the doom and gloom that is the Lord of Tachyon Galaxy format, because a lot of people are just kind of giving up on it. I think that it would be helpful to people to just look into the future and see the kind of hope that is coming from the fall format, because I believe that there will be a great amount of diversity and a lot of fun coming up in the fall format once these decks lose as much power as they do, or as they have now. Also, I think that it will be helpful for people to know what decks they should be looking forward to making in the future, just so they can pick them up while they're cheap. I think that it's a big market decision to look forward into the future and see what decks are cheap now but are going to be extremely good and maybe even really expensive off in the fall format. So I just want to make this video to discuss some things that I think might be good in the future. And the reason why I know that there's going to be a great diversity in this big explosion of decks in the fall format is because Konami is just piling great support onto decks that are great. They just don't have the kind of unfair and fast plays that Mermail and Prophecy and Dragosack have. And I've seen in the past that a lot of the time, fall format is usually a relatively slow format, and slow formats tend to have decks have a setting in which decks can flourish more rogue decks, a lot of different diversity of decks. So what we're seeing is kind of, if you have a can of worms and those worms just keep getting bigger and bigger, and you have this flimsy little lid that is Prophecy and Mermail and Dragosack, once Konami opens that lid, lets out that can of worms, those worms gonna just blow all over the place, and that is the worst analogy in the world. I apologize. Anyway, the point is, once those decks are gone, there's just going to be this explosion of great decks coming. And I'm talking like, well, I suppose that I should just kind of go down a top, however many this is going to be list. The first thing that I notice, looking at this list of decks that I think that are going to be really great in the fall, is that aside from our trusty friend Windups, who I'm sure, as long as Magician is legal and the other things are at 3, Windups will just keep chugging along. They're like the plant engine. Anyway, other than Windups, which will be still very good, especially since they're getting so many new Xyz toys, the vast majority of the decks that are building up support are decks that are based around spamming level 4 monsters, which means spamming rank 6, or not rank 6, what am I talking about? Rank 4 monsters. So lots and lots of level 4 based decks. Things like Machina Gadget are getting tons of support. You're getting Harpies, lots and lots of support, all level 4 based. Except for, I suppose the next caveat I should give before I continue this video is that I think that there are a couple of factors that will influence whether the predictions I am giving are true, and I think I'll address those at the end of the video, but for the most part, these decks will still be very good, barring a couple of anomalies that I think I'll address at the end. Anyway, so you've got Machina Gadgets receiving tons of support, you've got Harpies receiving tons of support, and then there are all the level 4 light-based decks that are getting tons and tons of support. So, well, I believe there are at least 4 of them that are going to be, at the very least, competitive in the fall format. You've got, you've got the War Gods that are coming out in Judgment of the Light. You have Noble Knights, which are getting they're getting a lot of support, Recently, especially going into Lord of Tachyon Galaxy, you've got Constellars, which are very good now, but could be even better without Fire Fist, etc. Or not Fire Fist, I'm talking about, without Prophecy, Dragosac, etc. getting in their way. And then finally, my personal favorite, the good old Thunder Family deck, which has a lot of power and a lot of utility, and these are all decks that focus around level 4 light monsters, which means that I think that right now is the best time to pick up your Paladynamos before they go completely out of print, or relatively out of print, and before these decks get, before the big top tier right now gets out of the deck's way, because this card, in the fall, will no longer have any prints going out, and will be extremely good, and I think that that will increase their price by quite a bit. The other thing that I'd say look out for is Constellar Omega. I think that once it gets its mass release, Constellar Omega is going to be at its lowest price that it's ever going to be. I'd say pick it up in the next couple of months, because right now it isn't doing a whole lot. But once the fall format happens, it will be used in at least 4 competitive decks. So, yeah, lots of level 4 base decks, lots of level 4 light base decks, and then of course things like wind-ups, and Karakuri will be good as long as they have that OTK ability. So just this explosion of decks is going to happen, but I do have a caveat that I want to elaborate on that I said earlier. There are a couple of unforeseen factors that I think people really need to look into before they actually take my judgment on the fall format. I just realized that Worms are also a level 4 light deck that will probably flourish in the fall format. Anyway, my point being, there are a couple of unforeseen factors. The first thing I want to think about that will influence whether my current predictions as to what the fall format will look like are correct, is whether or not Fire Fist Chicken, Brofist Chicken, gets released far enough in advance to the format change that Konami will think that Fire Fist has run its course. Because Chicken will undoubtedly make them a ton of money just because of the extreme hype of 3-axis Fire Fist. So if Konami doesn't think that it's been out, that Fire Fist has had enough influence on the meta, that it's been making them enough money, then they aren't going to touch Fire Fist on the ban list. Tenki isn't going to go, or whatever, which means that Fire Fist is going to do extremely well in the fall format. And I mean crazy good, because 3-axis, right now, the only thing that doesn't make it top tier is the fact that it's just that little bit slower or weaker than Mermail, Dragosac, etc. But, yeah, so that's one thing. If they do release it after that period of time when it could have had its influence, it's not going to get hit by the ban list, and it's going to be like a tier 0 or tier 0.5 deck in the fall. If they release it far enough ahead of time that they think it's run its course, then I don't think it's something we have to worry about in the fall. The other thing that I want to look at is Mecha Phantom Beast. I think that that's a deck that has a lot of potential, but we haven't seen it do a lot yet. I think that it could potentially be a major threat to the meta, but we don't know yet because it hasn't really had its chance to run its course. But that's just kind of my thought on the distant future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. If you have any ideas, I'll leave them down in the comments, and if you want me to just... Okay, I have no idea what you'd want me to do more with this video. But anyway, if you liked it, thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know if you hated it, or if you hated it, let me know why you did. And this is the RJB0, and I got a jet. Oh, after I tell you that the contest video will be coming up sometime either today or tomorrow, and then I will have a War God real deck review coming up in the near future. So stick around for that, and I will see you guys later. Bye.